What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into another video on MVP Sports. My name is Jake Neverman, and I'm here with my lovely co-host, Dave Oster.
Hey, everybody.
How we doing, Dave, today? It's a new day of recording. You might have seen from the previous videos we have changed clothes, so it is a new day of recording the previews. It's like, yeah, you know, we haven't recorded videos in a while, and we're about to record 4 of them. So if you notice, this is the first one of this recording session. We're going to be amped and, like, energy high and all that, and then you might go check 4 videos later.
it might get progressively drunker.
That's just Dave's life. So we are doing our NBA previews once again today. This video, we were hitting on the Atlantic Division, the final of our Eastern Conference previews. Before we do get started with that, if you guys would like to support us, check out our Patreon down below in the description, along with our channel memberships. Throughout the season and the draft process, Dave and I will be making videos, and they will go up on Patreon a week earlier than they will be on YouTube. And also, if you just want to support us and our lovely faces, you know. Also down below is our Discord. Join the greatest community in the world. The season is starting and the Discord is starting to pop once again.
A lot of chirping. There's a lot of chirping. A lot of people with unrealistic expectations in there.
I'm shocked. I can't think of what fan base has unrealistic expectations. I can't.
Might be a team we're talking about today.
The Nets? I can't believe. Yeah, we're talking about the Nets.
Might be a team in the Atlantic Division we're talking about today.
Maybe. But also hit that subscribe button down below and hit that like button if you do enjoy the videos. Leave a comment yelling at us about our bad opinions. You know, because from time to time we do have those, but not often. Not often. The first team we will start with in the Atlantic Division is the Toronto Raptors. So to give you a quick rundown on their offseason, they did lose Kyle Lowry in the sign and trade with the Miami Heat, and DeAndre Bembry signed with I almost said New York Nets, the Brooklyn Nets. Yeah. They drafted Scottie Barnes, number 4 overall. They drafted was Banton? No, Banton was one of our Discord members, guys.
He was, he's in our Discord. Yeah. He literally drummed up the interest pre-draft the week prior. He was one of those guys who, like, all of a sudden this new person joined our Discord and just started talking about Banton being like, hey, we got a 6'9" guy who's got guard skills. You know, people aren't looking at him enough. And we're like, interesting. I mean, I guess
there was some
surface level interest,
but it kept going.
And it was daily.
Yeah,
it was daily. And little did we know he was in there talking and just drumming up his own stock.
Yeah. And also, they did take David Johnson at 47th overall. In free agency, they re-signed Gary Trent Jr. and Kem Birch. They signed Isaac Bonga, Gary Trent Jr. again, Sam Decker, and Ishmael Wainwright. And also in the sign and trade for Kyle Lowry, they obviously acquired Goran Dragic and Precious Achiuwa. So I think it's reasonable to start with expectations for this team. The East is getting more competitive by the year. We used to trash about how bad the East was. There's quality teams up and down now in the East. The Toronto Raptors, are they some team that could surprise people this year, or are they another kind of maybe fringe play-in team, or they're going to be in that top half of the lottery?
East is thick in the middle. That's how I like to describe it, because I think there's like 2 teams at the top of the East everyone's looking at, and then literally 3 through 10, 3 through 11, 3 through 12. There is not going to be a lot of difference as far as we can tell from just looking at these rosters. A lot of it's going to play out throughout the season, and a lot of it's going to be dependent for this team on their young wings. They've got so many young wings on this team who have incredible upside. Obviously, the big addition this offseason was Scottie Barnes. You know, he was the shocker at 4 for a lot of people.
For me.
We talked about him pre-draft. I think you had him 4, didn't you?
I had him 4th, yeah.
You had him 4. Jake, our prophet over here.
Yeah.
He's a big wing who's got point guard skills.
Yeah.
Great vision. Really good defensive IQ for his age, and has really looked polished in the play we've seen out of him prior to the start of the season. So I'm really hopeful and high on this team because I like what they've done as far as building a team around basically like these value picks, undersized combo guards. We talked about it a little bit in Discord today. I kind of gave a little preview for my Raptors take. But, an undersized guard in Fred VanVleet, someone who fell because of his size and, college reputation, but they got him for basically nothing to start his career.
Yeah.
And then they did it again with a late first in Malachi Flynn. And then they just surround these guys by a bunch of really diverse wings who just kind of bring a little bit of something unique, each of them, to the table. So I think as far as matchup-wise, like, this team's going to be fun to watch all season because they just have these incredible mismatches, and they're going to switch on everything, and they're just long and annoying and defensively minded. Like, a lot of people on this team. I'm kind of going everywhere here, but the one guy I want to leave on note wise is Ogn Newbie. A lot of people's pick for most improved player of the year, someone who a lot of people have pegged for a breakout year because of the offensive opportunities that'll be opened up now with him, in theory, being the number one option as a scorer outside of maybe Fred VanVleet kind of continuing on. But a lot of people look at OG as he's the guy who's going to pick it up.
Yeah, I would fully agree. OG was going to be the first guy I brought up because I think that he's been very, very good and been somewhat underrated for the last couple of years. But it's also because his level of production hasn't equaled like a star level because he hasn't gotten the ball that many times. Because when you're playing the system as Kyle Lowry is such a tremendous player. He's very ball dominant at times, and you also have Fred VanVleet, who's ball dominant, and Siakam and Kawhi. So like OG's just kind of always been there. Now Lowry's gone. Obviously Kawhi's been gone from the team. There's so many guys who have left that were ball dominant on this team and almost who are stars. That maybe OG can take that jump this year. And if OG does take that jump this year, this team could be a team that fights to get into the play-in. I mean, they have the talent there. The bench is going to be a question, and Siakam is really the main question. Is Siakam going to return to his form from a few years ago, or is he going to be the player he was last year who was on some nights and some nights just looked terrible? So that's a lot of the questions. Goran Dragic is another question on this team. Is he going to be on this team? Yeah. Like, he's going to be gone, but when is he going to be gone is the question, because obviously, Dallas has been strongly rumored with him for. He was playing with Luka. I'm pretty sure. Came on and
said it.
Yeah, he's like
he played with Luka's dad previously in his career, which is just something to say out loud. Which just you kind of go, wait, what?
Yeah,
like that. What? That's a thing. Yeah. So he public statement about how he'd like to play in Dallas and that'd be cool. So we do expect something here to happen. This is not similar to the Kyle Lowry thing where Lowry was. Basically a hometown guy at this point to the team. Like he was just a fan favorite. He was with them from the Trash Bros days all the way up to the championship. And, he had that like love. And I know they weren't playing in Toronto, but it was still, he is a face of the franchise. Excuse me. A face of the franchise. And I just felt like they weren't going to let him go for, pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
I think that they'll get to the point with Goran where, you're just going to have to kick him off the team at some point for something because you don't want to walk away empty-handed.
Yeah, I could agree with that. And I think a big focus point on this team is also going to be Precious Achiuwa. I mean, we've watched him in the preseason. His perimeter defense in the preseason has been phenomenal. And I've talked about Scottie Barnes before in the draft process, obviously. But, I mean, with Kyle Lowry leaving and really there being no semblance of a leader, I really do think that he takes a big leadership role in this team basically right away. He's a player who plays with so much enthusiasm, so much energy, and so much passion that he is going to energize the rest of his teammates. Like that's what he does. He did it in college. It's what he's going to do here. He made a pass the other night in preseason, which it wasn't the right pass, but it was such a it was in transition. And he basically looked this way and underhanded it between two defenders to a guy cutting. There was a guy wide open in the corner for three, but he made the fancy pass and it worked, so they scored. But it's just like somebody of his talent defensively, having those type of offensive skills, scoring wise, he's going to have to improve going forward. We know that, but defensively, he's almost as sound of a prospect at that height and that wingspan and that play style that you're going to get. His defensive IQ is through the roof. Like he really grew on me later in the draft process because we had so much time. We were talking about the top three and Jalen Suggs being four, and then it kind of like creeped into my mind that I was like, I really like Jalen Suggs too. We talked about them in the last video in their preseason and them thrusting the ball, asserting dominance. But again, and I have to reiterate this top five in this draft class is just stupid talented. Like we talked about it during the entire draft process that like this top three, there's probably not going to be a bust. You could probably stretch it out to the top five at this point. This top five is just skilled. Like even if Evan Mobley doesn't increase his scoring ability in the next couple of years, he's going to be such a force defensively, and his passing ability and his dribbling ability is going to be something that's going to make him become an elite player very quickly in the NBA. Before we move on to the next team, we did it in the first two. One player to buy and one player to sell on this team for this year, Dave.
I kind of want to go. It's like, do you go mainstream or do you just not? I'm gonna go. I'll buy. I think Fred VanVleet's gonna be the guy who actually is gonna increase.
Yeah, I can see
his scoring more so than OG. OG's just the perfect complementary piece. Like you said, he's not a superstar, and he just seems like the plug and play. Like He's all NBA defense caliber player who can knock down open shots, and he thrives off the fact that he hasn't been the guy who has to ball handle.
Yes.
In college, I loved him coming out because he'd shown that spark, the ability to create for himself with the ball in his hands. But I think as a pro, he's just learned so much off ball and how to get himself in the right spots to nail down shots, get to the right place on the court. I think Fred is actually going to be the guy who's benefiting most from the opportunities on this team. So I'm going to go with Fred as my guy to watch for. And I think Pascal is coming off a shoulder injury. The attitude / vibe of the team, the long-term questions about him on the team. I think he's probably the guy I'm going to be a little down on.
Yeah. I'd probably buy Precious Achiuwa. I think he has a very good year, especially in a Nick Nurse system defensively, how good he is. Hopefully his game offensively can grow a little bit, but just even if it doesn't defensively, he's such a force. And I'll sell Chris Boucher because I don't know long term his fit on this team. Like Shadat. Is that what you just said?
Rick Bucher, yeah.
Rick Bucher, Shadat. Yeah, I'm just I'm not quite sold on Chris Boucher, and I think people overvaluate his value on a team at certain points. He's a good backup center, but I don't think
he stretched the floor really well for them off the bench.
Yeah.
We saw him get a starting role for the last 15 games or so prior to his injury. He looked okay. His shooting splits did suffer a little bit from going to that starting lineup, but I think for someone who has come along so late in his career, it's really kind of promising to see him be able to add that dynamic of being a stretch five out there. So definitely valuable to this team, and they're going to need him if they want to compete for a playoff spot.
Yeah. So the next team we're going to move into is the Boston Celtics. In the offseason, their moves, they did trade Kemba Walker to the Oklahoma City Thunder, because why not? Because the Oklahoma City Thunder just take every bad contract.
And they flipped him.
Yeah. They traded Tristan Thompson to the Sacramento Kings, Carson Edwards to the Memphis Grizzlies. Free agency, they lost Evan Fournier to the New York Knicks, Semi Ojeleye to the Bucks, and Taco Fall, the biggest loss of the offseason, to the Cleveland Cavaliers. They also added in the draft Juan Bagarin, 45th pick overall. In free agency, they re-signed Enes Kanter, and they signed Dennis Schroeder. And in trades, they acquired Al Horford, Josh, the black hole of offense, Richardson, Bruno Fernando, and Juancho Hernan Gomez. So, the Celtics. This is such an interesting team to me this year, because no, I don't think their upside is not top 3 in the East. I don't think, because I know we slightly disagree on this. We agree the first 2 teams. I think the Heat are almost locked in health wise. They would be if they're healthy. Third, after that, I think it is a crapshoot. The Celtics are a team that, if Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum stay healthy, they are going to win games regardless of who is around them, because how talented those 2 players are. Jason Tatum, I rate him a little bit higher than most people do. I in our Discord, again, down below, we did a top 10 players list a month ago, and Tatum's 10 on my list. I think Tatum is he is such a spectacular player, and his defense goes a little bit under the radar because how spectacular he is offensively. So him alone can win them games. My question is, I'm blanking on their new coach's name, Ime Udoka. I couldn't get my words out. He talked very emphasizing about passing and assisting offensively, because last year they were bottom third of the league in assist percentage. So that is one place that they have to grow their game offensively. He is a defensively strong coach. He obviously spent time in Philly. I've been saying that he should get a starting job for a while. I wish it wasn't the Celtics. But the bigger question here that I'll start you with is Brad Stevens is the GM of the Celtics. Do you have faith in him this season? When we get to the trade deadline, he's going to have to make moves. Do you have confidence in him for a season long of success? Because his offseason was good. We can agree on that.
Was it?
He did the best of what he could, is what I'm going to say.
Was it, though?
Was it bad? What else were they going to do, Dave?
I mean, he went out and he's like, you played for me before. You want to come back?
Al Horford is an expiring deal, right? So that gets off the books soon. I don't know if it's expiring this year or next year. But
it's next year.
Yeah.
But they can cut him for basically nothing.
So basically it's an expiring deal if they pay him off next year.
I think they're going to probably just extend him out or something until
So Josh Richardson, expiring deal. Dennis Schroeder, expiring deal. There's a theme here. Do they think they have a shot at somebody in free agency? That's not what we'll get into today, because that's postseason. We'll tinfoil that in a couple months.
Sure.
This season, Tatum, Brown, Schroeder on a resurgence, Enes Kanter back. What does this team do this year?
They're a middle of the pack East team. I don't think that Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown are enough to carry them to a top 4 They're both very good players, but I just think this roster is so inherently not out of position, but like it's just not well constructed.
Yes.
It's not well constructed at all.
We talked about a vision last podcast. There's no vision with this team. It's just kind of smacked together.
This was called we need to get enough guys to fill out a roster for the season, and we will figure it out as we go. Clearly the core it is, right now just Brown and Tatum. You'd like to think Robert Williams, Time Lord, has a chance long term. They did re-up him. I think he is a spectacular defensive guy. The question is if he can stay on the court offensively enough to be worth it. I think so. I think this is going to be great, but with the addition of Al Horford back to the roster, then you go, can you really play those two guys next to each other long term?
Yeah.
I think that's why they went and had to pay Juancho, get someone who can space the floor, who can play alongside both of them. So like they've got these interesting dynamics at different positions, and I look at the roster and just, unless Neesmith is going to step up and have a massive growth in year 2. It's a big ask. Romeo Langford does exist. We've seen him now.
Does he still?
Is he good, though?
Yeah.
Don't know. Don't think so. His defense looks great, but that's what we've said for 3 years now.
We didn't say that for 3 years. For 2 years, we said, is he going to play?
There's that. Yeah. So, like, you've got a mystery box in him, and then your point guard acquisition is a shooting guard. Dennis Schroeder, and one who did not actually shoot well when he needed to. So like I really just feel like this roster is just a placeholder right now.
Yeah.
They need to figure out what they're doing moving forward. I'm with you though. I love Tatum. I don't top 10's a little high for me, but like he ain't far off.
Yeah.
Like he is spectacular. And this team was hit so hard by injuries and COVID last year. I think they missed the most games. So again, like it's just they had some bad luck last year, which is why I'm like they're a middle of the pack team. They might win a lot of regular season games. But I don't really believe in them as a championship contender by any means this year, unless there's a major move happening.
No, yeah, I don't think they're a championship contender, but they do have upset potential against certain teams. Mm-hmm. They also did re-up Marcus Smart to a pretty sizable contract.
Say his name right.
Marcus Smart to a pretty, and they signed Ryan Arcidiacono to a training camp deal.
Bad personal,
Yeah. I was gonna say where I was gonna leave this in is it's kind of, this whole season comes down to the young guys, and are any of them going to take a step? We know Jaylen Brown's an all-star. We know Jason Tatum's a borderline superstar. We know that.
Yeah.
We know that about those two. What is the rest of this roster going to do? What is Dennis Schroeder going to be coming from that Laker disaster? What is Al Horford?
Trying to get his paycheck. Like that's the thing. Like Schroeder, I'm a little worried because one thing, assume healthy, but once you do that and you go, okay, is he going to be out trying to get his next bag? Like how much money he lost this offseason was Nerlens Noel-esque.
Well, Nerlens is now suing for it, so
good on him. He deserves it. His agent was an absolute fucking moron. But it adds a question because like Schroeder had moments where he put it all together and he's like, this kid, I still say he ain't a kid. This guy looks like a legit stud at point guard, but at the same time, like, I don't know if I'm a massive buyer, but like Peyton Pritchard just puts it together, spaces the floor really well. Seems like a smart player. I don't know. Maybe they do just keep rolling out with Peyton Pritchard, and if he continues to thrive, like maybe he is the guy moving forward.
I think Peyton Pritchard is going to top out as a very good backup point guard. I don't think he's going to be a franchise starting point guard, but if you seriously want to start the season with a lineup, you could start the lineup of Peyton Pritchard, Schroeder, Brown, Tatum, and Horford if you want to. That's the 5-man lineup you could run because it does space the floor well. Tatum,
Schroeder off the bench, give me Smart.
Tatum, I assume is going to be the main ball handler for the majority of the time for this team. Now the question is, how is their distribution going to come about? Al Horford's a very good passer for a big man, but he's not going to run the offense. Like, there's a lot of question marks on this team. Grant Williams, we didn't even mention, but he does not look like an NBA player. He doesn't
deserve one. No. Yeah, he doesn't deserve mentioning anymore.
Yeah, and Bruno Fernando. Come on, can't believe he's still in the league too. It's like, it's just a bunch of names that you kind of look at and laugh. And while, like, I don't want to, they will be at minimum in the play-in. I fully stand by
that. No, this is not a bottom 3 team in the East.
No, it's just very mean.
Their 2 stars are too good to lose that many games. It's just they have no top end. They have no, like, if everything clicks for this team, there's not that championship hope in my mind.
It's also very interesting that they don't have a single player over 7 feet tall. I know. I just noticed that. It's a weird little stat that I mentioned because I think Cantor is their tallest at 6'10", which is
Probably, yeah.
their rim protection is going to be very, very questionable. We talked about it with
Robert Williams got that wingspan though. Like he can
is
slot.
He is the one. He is the one guy who's going to
Yeah.
bring the rim protection, but he can't be on the court the entire time. And against
Yeah.
teams like the Bulls, who have very high rim pressure rates, like
Yeah.
you play the Clippers, you play the Bulls. Like and Clippers is preseason, not last season. A lot of these teams are generating a lot of high rim pressure. How are the Celtics going to fare against that?
How's Al Horford going to keep up? You know, that's the big question. Is another year down because he had basically almost a year off.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have any lingering injuries. Should be feeling great, but also how much rust is there at this point in his career?
Yeah.
I mean, it's gonna be interesting because I think that matchup wise, I'm very curious to see how they do against the Bucks. That's been a great rivalry for the last couple of years. I know the Chris Middleton arc in the playoffs has been awesome to watch, but like, I really think that that's the team in the East that I love them to match up against and see like that's a true test for them. You know, I mean, and again, they are the champs. I should put more respect on the Bucks name, but like,
You definitely should.
I think that is a team where I'm like, I'd love to see how they hold up because I think rim protection is one thing, but like the unique spacing that you have to deal with, and then the matchup wise with Giannis out there, like how do you handle someone like that attacking the rim? Is it going to be Horford playing drop coverage? Are you going to go small? Like, what's the plan? You know?
Yeah, I feel it. I'll start with this one. Easily, my player to buy is always it's going to be Jason Tatum no matter what because I just feel like he just keeps improving and I think his facilitation game is going to improve this year. Player to sell, easy. Josh Richardson, the black hole of offense. He's terrible. He's already been talking crap this year. It's just no. Just no with him.
You know, I'm gonna actually go against myself here in my line of thought. I'm gonna go Jaylen Brown as a player to buy because I feel like he has gone under the radar. Like, he had like literally 3 back-to-back breakout seasons.
Yeah,
and then like now I'm like, all right, does he have another gear? Because I feel like this team needs him to take another step in order to truly compete for the Eastern Conference Championship. So I think that Jaylen Brown's my guy to watch. And I'm going to go ahead and just say Al Horford is the guy who I don't know how much he has left in the tank. I know he's a smart player. He's always going to be in the right place at the right time.
He's a what player?
He's a smart player.
Wait, he's a what?
Smart?
He's a smart player? He's a smart
Oh my God, shut up.
Shut up.
He's a smart player who's in the right place at the right time. But I hope they don't ask or expect too much out of him as far as his defense and being able to go out on the perimeter and try to defend guys off the dribble. Like, I just think that that's a situation where, like, if they use him right, it's great. And I think he's an excellent leader to bring back to a team that's very young. Yeah. But on the other hand, if they depend too much on Al Horford, the team's already fucked.
I would fully agree. The next team we're going to move into, we have to tread lightly on this team, is the New York Knicks. We'll go with their offseason moves before we get into their team.
Sure.
In free agency, they did lose Reggie Bullock to the Dallas Mavericks and Elfrid Payton to the Phoenix Suns. Not really counting Elfrid Payton as a loss, but the only thing you lose is his hair, I guess. In the draft, they took Quentin Grimes 25th overall, Rokas Jokubaitis 34th overall, Miles McBride 36th overall, and Jericho Sims 58th overall. In free agency, they re-signed Alex Burks, they re-signed Nerlens Noel, they signed Evan Fournier, they re-signed Derrick Rose, Taj Gibson, and they signed Kemba Walker after his buyout from the Thunder. So, a lot of moves. A lot of change. There isn't a lot of change, honestly. There's just a lot of addition, really, with this roster. A lot of every key part is back this year. I think the only place you can start with this team is RJ Barrett. He is the polarizing enigma of that team. They're split on Twitter about RJ Barrett. The Knicks fans defend him and defend him and defend him. The outside fans say that he has to take a jump this year or else he's kind of falling behind because, I will give him this. It is very tough for him because the 2 players that went in front of him are Zion and Ja Morant. And Zion, yes, has been hurt, but we've seen how incredible he is when he's healthy. And Ja Morant got his team to the playoffs in the West. So, like, there's a big... And then there's RJ. So, like, where does he come into this? Do you believe in RJ to take a jump this year, or do you think he is just what he is at this point?
Yeah, he's, did he hit 21 yet even? Like,
No.
No, he has to be.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is.
He just hit 21. He had to So he's 21. It's his third year in the league. Like, I'm sorry.
I agree.
He's an 18 point a game scorer who now shoots efficiently from three. Yeah, I think that's pretty fucking good for your second year. And I think that when your offensive system is Tom Thibodeau's, and again, you're gonna get the minutes because it's Thibodeau, but they're playing through their best player in Julius Randle. So as far as touches go and shots go, he's not number one priority.
No.
Your bench point guard is Derrick fucking Rose, which is awesome, and I love Derrick Rose, but that also means the facilitating isn't necessarily the first thing that comes out of his mind.
You think the first thing? So, it's not the second thing either.
He's gotten better at it. But like, look, this is a team that basically played without a point guard, a true point guard, a true facilitator on their roster last year. They were going through the spin cycle for half their shit. So like, I think
half
that
is generous. It's probably more than that.
I'm trying, man. Point is, I think RJ Barrett is a very good scorer, and I think he's just going to keep getting better because he's shown in high school that he was he had the potential to be a big ball handler with a shot from any three-level scorer. College, I know a lot of people thought he took a step back. Well, you have to take a backseat to Zion Williamson. Yeah. It was all about Zion at that point. And then he got stuck with the lame duck in Cam Reddish in college, who literally had one good game in college. He had one good game, and then he got hurt. No, it was a weird situation for RJ. So no, I think he has done really well. The growth from year 1 to year 2 is awesome. I don't expect him to have any regression. I think the 3-point shot, do you believe the fact that he went up, from a 32% shooter to a 40% shooter in 1 year, while almost doubling his attempts? Yeah, that might be a little much. Is he going to be above a 36%? Yeah, I think 36 to 40 is reasonable, though. And I think, he's going to keep doing well. I look at this team and I go, where are the opportunities? Who's the guys who are going to be carrying this team? And I just think that the money is still safely on having it be a spin cycle team and everybody else is there to work around him. And look, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just going to be hard for them to win when your best player is Julius Randle. And I hate to say it, but
no, you're right. You're right. We saw in the playoffs last year. Their offense fell to shreds because Julius Randle turned into the spin cycle again in the playoffs, and he couldn't create his own shot. And they had no other options to go to.
Alec Burks became a fucking. When Alec Burks becomes a go-to guy.
No, he's either an overseas
contract re-signed, by the way.
He's either an overseas bench player or he's a fucking all-star. There's no in between with Alec Burks. Those are the two. He's either prime. He's either prime Jamal Crawford, or he's I don't even fucking know, like Jay-Z playing basketball. It's one of the two.
So well, that's the thing. I look at that and I'm like, damn. I think the whole world's sleeping on this guy, and I'm like, I guarantee you, this year they got 18 guys who could be in their backcourt. Yeah. So how much? There's too much investment in the wrong type of players.
I agree. And Evan Fournier coming in. Here's my thing with the Knicks. Okay, they were the 4 seed last year, which is a vast overachievement because they were the only team, and I emphasize only, that stayed healthy the entire year. They stayed healthy, and it's a Tibbs team. That makes no sense. I was going to say, they had 2 starters over 36 minutes a night, I think. Yes. And
no other team in the NBA had that.
I see Knicks fans saying, we signed these players and retained our assets. There's no way we finished lower than 4. I think you have to reel it in because I think basically in the regular season, everything went right for the Knicks last year. There wasn't a thing that you could point to that was no, that was off. No, that was off. I love the young guys they have. RJ Barrett, I think he deserves slight criticism for last year in the playoffs, but he was a second-year player. When your main guy, Julius Randle, doesn't have it, you'd like your number 3 overall picked guy to become give me the ball, I'll create. I think he's a little bit young for that, but I can understand if people say that. It's not necessarily that I agree with it.
He's not John Morant, okay? He's not
John Morant. It's almost like John Morant went number 2 for a reason. Knicks fans only had one more lottery ball fall your way. You could have had John Morant. It's tough with me for this Knicks team because, one, I think a second-year Tibbs team is where we see a little bit of fatigue hit if he's going to play Julius Randle and RJ Barrett 36 minutes plus again per game for 80 games. It just doesn't work. It just simply doesn't work. 2, I do get the point of Elfrid Payton played all last year, and now that he's not there, but you also add Kemba. Do you know Kemba Walker over the last couple years? Do you know
he also won't be there?
Do you also know that that through like 15 games he'll be literally like 7 good, 8 bad. He'll be like that is what Kemba does. He's on one game off the next, on game off the next. Like that's just what he does. He did it in Boston for half a year last year, or no, more than that. He just this team. I don't know. I do their draft. I loved. Quentin Grimes.
God, yeah. I literally loved every single one.
Yeah, it was literally like
Jericho Sims was a fucking summer league standout.
Yeah,
the guy who got forced to play behind like 3 straight Texas centers who went like top 15.
Yeah,
and then he already his time in college made him a better player, arguably, than those players are right now. Meanwhile, they still have Nerlens, right?
Yeah.
Nerlens as well. Looks like a fucking defensive monster. Big Mitch comes back.
Yeah.
Like, the problem is, this team's shooting. That was the whole thing that killed them last year was their spacing, their shooting, the ability to spread the floor. They went out, they got Fournier to try to address that. They went and they drafted Grimes, who is a volume 3-point shooter. Made over again in college. Like, there's just it seems like they try to address it. I just have zero faith in Kemba Walker being the point guard of this team, and I think that leads to a lot of the problems that kind of unroll again.
It doesn't. Yeah. So a regular season, I think they'll be okay. They're in that 4 through 8 range. Like they could finish 4th if everything absolutely goes right. They could finish as low as 8 if certain people get down. But once we get to the playoffs again, the same thing's going to happen. I don't know what we expect to change because they didn't bring in an elite perimeter ball handler, which is what they needed to do because you need to be able to get the ball. I understand that Kemba is good at some portions, and that is what the idea fit for him is, but there's no distributor on this team. There's none. Elfrid Payton, yes, he was terrible, and yes, you should not have brought him back. I completely agree with that, but you should have got a guy in the same profile as him who was actually good at it. Do you know what I mean? Like
a pass first point guard, yes.
A TJ McConnell, like something like that. I'm not saying that TJ is the fit because I don't know if he can be a starting point guard for an entire season. But like somebody in that mold, like Chris Paul wasn't leaving, but if you could throw the bag at Chris Paul, he was never leaving Phoenix. But like just something.
They had the assets to go get Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, you could have gotten Kyle Lowry. Like, I think Lowry was somewhat set on Miami, but I just think there's if there's a trade to be made for a perimeter ball handling, distributing guard. Then yes, maybe my view changed on this team. I think they make the playoffs as a top 6-7 team, but I don't think they make it past the first round again because the same problems are going to come up. They're going to face the same teams, and I don't see it fixing because they didn't change the perspective of the entire roster. I hope that Miles McBride gets minutes because he deserves it, and he's literally the perfect guard for Tibbs' system. It's just going to be so tough because they have so many guards. Like,
but they're all in the same spot. That's the problem is
exactly.
They have guards, but they're all within like that range of like you're not good enough to stand out from the crowd to earn those minutes. So they're going to sprinkle a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there, and we won't see anyone really break out from the pack. And I think that's the frustration is like I look at them and I just keep going, okay, so Kemba's your starting point guard, D Rose off the bench, but you drafted Grimes, you got McBride, you also have IQ who went with the summer league thing. Basically, the whole emphasis was around him being a facilitator, and a better passer. And I think he did a good job showing that he has that upside. But that's like 4 fucking point guards now.
Yeah,
I guess some of them are combo guards. But then once you start talking combos, you add Burks to the conversation. You also can, I guess, technically add RJ. I know they played him at the 3 a lot last year, but like
wing's a wing.
It's just the wing, whatever. But like. It's just there's not enough separation and minutes and time for all of them to play, and not one of them, I think, will stand out, and that's the problem. Meanwhile, can we address the elephant in the room that we're just dancing around the fact that, they wasted a top 10 pick on Obi Toppin, who's done absolute dick.
And they wasted a first-round pick on Kevin Knox, who's just an absolute dick. Like, there's just so many things rolling into this team. Like, they need either a perimeter scoring guard or RJ to take his playmaking step, which is what, if RJ could take his perimeter
best case scenario.
That is it. If RJ takes his perimeter playmaking step, then this team could be a 4 or 5 seed easily.
Yep.
I don't know if he's ready for that right away, and he might be. He's looked great in the preseason. His shooting's been fantastic, but his shooting isn't the problem with me now. It's him putting the ball on the floor, creating for himself and for others, and making this team better. That's the big question. So, Dave, one player to buy and one player to sell for this team.
Sell is on Kevin Knox. I'm shocked he's still on the roster.
I'm not even
We've
sure
seen
that's
a lot
sell.
of cuts.
I was gonna say I'm not even sure that's
We've seen a
sell.
lot of cuts, and I'm surprised he's still on the roster. Fine. If you want me to actually sell, I'll sell Mitch Rob. I think that he is injury prone. I think he's supremely talented, but he can't stay in games, and due to injuries, due to fouls, I just think that they're going to move on from him before that people would expect it. The person I'm going to buy, I mean, how can I not buy Grimy?
Yeah, I don't know how I'm selling Kemba Walker. I don't know how you're not selling Kemba. That is the most obvious one.
I have low expectations for Kemba out the gates. But I hate Kemba Walker. Don't you remember?
Yeah, but your first one, okay, whatever.
Like,
I'm buying.
Years been talking about that.
I'm buying Miles McBride because I can't buy Rokas Jokibitis because they sent him back over to Barcelona to play this.
He's not good enough to start.
Well, no, he's not good enough to start on this team.
He's not good enough to play. And
disagree. Next team we're going to move into. The next team we're going to move into is your future NBA. I mean, it's the Brooklyn Nets. What are you smirking at?
We don't know. Who's playing for him?
That was the joke that I was making. But the players they lost in a trade, obviously, let me shame it to the Phoenix Suns. Spencer Dinwiddie to the Washington Wizards, and in free agency they lost Jeff Green to the Denver Nuggets, and I also see they lost Kyrie Irving because he won't take a shot. They added in the draft Cam Thomas, bucket getter. Yeah, just bucket. Number 27 overall. Day'Ron Sharpe, 29th. Kessler Edwards, 49th. Marcus Zagarowski. I can't say his last name ever. Zagorowski. There you go. 49th. And Raekwon Gray, 59th overall. In free agency, they added James Johnson, Patty Mills, and DeAndre Bembry. And they traded for Javon Carter, the man who looks like he's 40 ever since he was drafted with that bald head out of West Virginia. So, the Brooklyn Nets got better. Do we just start there?
Yeah.
Like, they just got better. Like, is this team is, we talked about it with the Bucks a couple episodes ago. We labeled them as not really championship or bust because they obviously won the title last year. The Nets are championship or bust. Like, you have to win a championship this year. With or without Kyrie, you have to win a championship.
I agree. The additions of Millsap and Patty Mills were massive. The depth on this team is now incredible, and the veteran leadership is there across the board. So I really don't see a hole on this roster outside of Kyrie Irving, who is well known at this point. You guys have probably heard. I mean, I don't know. By the time this video gets posted, I don't expect for there to be a resolution.
I don't think we're getting a resolution in a couple days. Yeah, I don't think we're getting.
So I'll just go out of my way there and say, if he's not playing in half of the games, it might be a problem for them.
No, he's not playing any of them, Dave.
Well, again, it's not any right now.
Well, no,
I don't know if they're going to go back on it.
No, yeah, I don't think they're going to go back on it.
Okay.
Their owner is a very pro-vaccine, like, what's it called? Spokesperson. Like, I don't think this is getting. And they asked Harden about it today, and he's like, have you talked to Kyrie? And he was like, no, I haven't talked to Kyrie. I will say, quick offseason note is Kyrie not getting vaccinated and probably not playing means them keeping James Harden is way easier now. So if we have to witness Harden and KD for the next 4 years, I'd prefer not to.
Give me that.
No. Harden needs to come home to dad. That's what he needs to do. He needs to come home to Daryl.
But if Kyrie's not there,
yes,
it's not like it's a huge problem for this team.
It's not.
They still got 1 billion guys on this roster who can step in. Like, they're not as good as Kyrie. But the fact that you can option in and, just toss out, Patty Mills to directly fill his role as a bench ball. I'm sorry, no, Harden was one who was more the bench point guard as well.
Yeah.
But like those responsibilities literally just flip over to another veteran who's been going underrated since forever because he was on the Spurs. Like, incredibly smart, crafty Patty Mills, still a good shot creator for himself. And from a scoring standpoint, you drafted a kid who hasn't seen a bad shot in his whole fucking life.
Cam Thomas, baby.
I love Cam Thomas, and I love the love that Cam Thomas has gotten. I just think it's hilarious that like this team is just so stacked, and unless a major injury happens to James Harden or Kevin Durant, that there's no way this team isn't in your Eastern Conference Finals.
There's no way this team's not in the finals. If Harden and KD are both healthy, no shot they're not in the finals. Like,
it depends. I think there are some matchups out there that could be a problem for this team with those two, even when healthy. But again, that's also the asterisk around. Okay, you've got Lamarcus Aldridge back to basketball again,
and you're also
and
we're also gonna say they're probably gonna make moves in the during the regular
yeah,
season.
this
People
is
are
by no
gonna
means
people are gonna get bought out and immediately just sign with the Brooklyn Nets again. Like that's just the reality of the situation. It's not like this is the
Blake Griffin,
roster.
another season of health in the or another offseason to become healthier, and it looks like he's continued to adapt his role on this team. He might be, the starting center. The fact that they moved on from DeAndre Jordan, honestly, was awesome.
Oh, it's exactly.
I'm so happy to see that.
Claxton can play when somebody sits now, which is Blake takes tonight off. Claxton finally plays. It was like somebody said that Claxton missed a game a couple of days ago because of illness, and somebody says he's sick of being fucked in the rotation. That's it's true. I mean, it took Kyrie being out, Harden with a hamstring injury, and Joe Harris disappearing in the playoffs for them to lose in an intense close series to the eventual champions.
Literally by a shoe size.
And they lost by a shoe size to that. So, like, it is hard for me. If Harden or KD get hurt, yes, that changes everything. But if Harden and KD are healthy, by the time we get to the playoffs, I don't see a team that can beat them, especially even with who else they're going to add throughout the season.
They rocked Bruce Brown as their center in the playoffs. And he was one of the most efficient scorers in NBA playoff history.
It worked.
What the, points per possession? He was literally, I think he was top 10.
Now,
I mean, the offensive fucking schemes.
Well, it's
that their head coach, quote unquote,
now
is getting credit for.
Their assistant is gone now.
That's what I was going to say. The fact that they're missing out on perhaps the true wizard behind the magical offense. Is this Steve Nash's, if he can't get it done with this roster, is he going to be done?
I don't know. I don't think he'll get fired because I think the players love him. So, that
he seems incredibly likable, yeah, and he's got obviously the reputation from playing the league.
He's the complete opposite of Jason Kidd, right? So he's players actually like him, and he's like on the outside from last 1 year. But this team is just I can't wait to watch this team play because this team and the rotations that they're going to be able to run are going to be so much fun to watch. Lamarcus Aldridge, hopefully he gets to play throughout the entire year and doesn't have to be forced to stop playing again. I mean, man, I like we talked about earlier, I think Patty Mills, he's been a guy who's just kind of gone under the radars. He's one of the best shooters in the NBA. He's a veteran who, despite his size, is actually a plus defender. He's good. He doesn't make that many mistakes. He's just the perfect addition. And if Kyrie is going to miss time, just plug him into the lineup, or you can bring him off the bench. It doesn't really matter because you'll probably start.
Yeah, they just throw in another shooter. I mean, it's no big deal.
It's crazy. I don't think there's much to say on this team because Landry Shamet's gone. I almost wrote his name in.
Yes,
his name was on there. He's in Phoenix, right? Yeah, I believe I said that already. Yes, he's in Phoenix. So, I mean, I think the last thing we'll touch on is the rookies on this team. I think the only one who's going to make an impact this year is really Cam Thomas. He's going to make a serious impact on this team. I don't see Day'Ron Sharpe getting that much playing time. Maybe Kessler Edwards. He's on a 2-way contract right now, but he could eventually, by the end of the season, maybe sneak his way into some late minute rotation minutes. Is there any? It's really Cam Thomas, right? It's really bucket.
100%. I mean, that's 100% of the vibe is the fact that I don't know if this team's going to get to that point where they're just blowing teams out so quickly in games.
Oh, they will.
Where he's just getting the third, the couple minutes in the third quarter, and then a 10-minute run in the fourth quarter to just go off on. Yeah. But I could see it. I could see Cam Thomas with 13 minutes played and 15 shots taken.
Yeah.
That is going to be Cam Thomas's role on this team, and I'm going to love every fucking minute of it.
It's going to be great. One player to buy and one player to sell on the Brooklyn Nets. I will start. My player to buy is pretty obvious. It's Cam Thomas because Cam Thomas is just the man. Player to sell is a little bit tough on this team because I would like to sell Steve Nash just because Nick Claxton needs to play, and I love his game, and I don't think he's going to play. So I'll leave it to Steve Nash because there's not really a player that you could lean Lamarcus Aldridge because he's coming off his injury, or Blake Griffin because he's injury prone, but that doesn't really jive with me really. I think Steve Nash, this is his do or die year because if they don't win the title, he probably doesn't get fired, but NBA fans will be targeting him if they don't win a title this year.
Yeah, because we'll all know he was propped up by a much, 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 much better head coach.
Yeah, Dan Antoni.
Dan Antoni's the guy.
Sixers coach, yes.
You wish in your dreams. My guy to watch, Bruce Brown. He plays all 5 positions.
Yeah.
He's been the utility knife. He's a Swiss Army knife for this team last year.
Taysom Hill, the NBA.
He played. Yeah, he played everywhere. He did everything for this team. He could be your point guard. He can be your, shooting guard. He could be your small forward. He could be your center. He could be power forward. He can come off the bench. He could be in the starting lineup. Like, he is like what Rocco used to be.
Yeah.
Like, he is the ultimate utility player for this team, and I'm super excited because I love watching him play. And he also came from the Pistons, so shout out Soapy for the freebie. Player to not love. It's 100% Paul Millsap.
Yeah,
he looked washed at the end of last year. And I think that he is washed. So I think this is a paycheck for him. Anything is a bonus.
If he signed with the Bulls, you'd be saying the opposite, but
I would be.
Yes, I see. At least we admit the bias.
He's fat and slow though right now. Like, you can't argue the fact that he looks fat and slow.
I never thought of a better one than Bruce Brown as the Taysom Hill of the NBA. That is like perfect. That is actually perfect. The last team in this division.
I'm just gonna mute my mic for the next 5 minutes.
No. I'll let you go first. Probably is the Philadelphia 76ers. We'll go over their offseason moves first. They lost Dwight Howard to the LA Lakers, wouldn't really call it a loss, and they lost George Hill to the Milwaukee Bucks, also wouldn't really call it a loss. In the draft, they drafted Jaden Springer, 28th overall, Philippe Petrusev, 50th overall, and Charles Bass-Daddy, 53rd overall. In free agency, they re-signed Furkan Korkmaz, you're Furkan, right? And they signed Andre Drummond, re-signed Danny Green, and they signed Georges Niang. So, we are recording this 2 days after Ben Simmons randomly showed up to the stadium before the game to get COVID tested. I didn't think this saga could get any weirder, but it did. We'll start with expectation for the Sixers, Dave. I won't interrupt you. You can go first. What are your expectations now that Ben Simmons most likely is going to play for the 76ers, for at least at the start of the season? What are your expectations for this team?
I mean, you said it right there. For the start of the season, we don't know how long during the season he will be on this team. And we don't know what the return could be for him, whether they are going to get a package involving a very good player or a smattering of, starters and picks that they can then flip again to try to get somebody. Like, there's just so many unknowns around this team. So I'll start with what we can say for sure is they have an MVP candidate in Joel Embiid. The offensive role is expected to be bigger than ever for him. There was talks in the offseason, I should say the most recent part of the offseason, about him being the focal point of this team and not having to bend around what had to work for Joe or what had to work for Ben. Instead it's going to be a Joe-centered team, which I think is really great. He's always seemed like an emotional leader in the locker room. He's a super outspoken kid, and he's just a ton of fun, but, it's always injuries with him. So the season is going to ride and die with him. I love the fact that Isaiah Joe's getting minutes right now, and it looks like he is a legit three-point threat out there. Floor spacer. I mean, basically, you just got baby Seth Curry out there, which is great. It's literally just great. Draft-wise, I do not love their draft this year. I think that they literally missed on 3 straight players. But that's an opinion. And again, if you're counting on rookies to help carry you to a championship, it's a big ask already. So really, my expectations for this team, I think they could probably a 3-6 team in the East. I don't know, because of health and because of depth or lack thereof, how far through the regular season they'll be able to stay that high. So, like, I am kind of leaning, probably in that 4-5 range if I had to guess, but I think it's fair. I think they've got a bunch of really good defenders. Scoring wise, though, I'm not sure how consistent they're going to have performances from these kind of role players in this team.
Yeah, their best draft acquisition was Aaron Henry, undrafted. That is unbelievable.
Who was preaching him?
But I don't think any of Springer, Baskett, or Petrusev are going to see minutes this year. Springer might see some low-end minutes when people miss time, but besides that, I don't think they play.
Yeah.
I think one thing that goes very under the radar is the Georges Niang signing. I think that was a perfect signing. He has looked. It's very weird to have a spot-up shooter who just knocks down shots at a consistent rate above league average. That's just what he does. It's stuff that Daryl Morey does. I think bringing Furkan Korkmaz back, $5 million a year for 3 years is a fantastic value for what he brings to the team. Unfurkin believable. And then Danny Green, I think you had to have him back. He was so good for the second half of the season, and they looked like they were cruising through past the Atlanta Hawks, and then Danny Green went down, and it kind of seemed like they fell apart a little bit. I think Danny Green is a very important veteran leader on the court for this team and off the court. He grew into that role last year. Isaiah Joe, man, wow. I loved him in the draft process, obviously being from around Philly, and his ball handling ability is growing also in the in the preseason. We've seen some confidence from him. The 2-man game of him and Andre Drummond has been one of the revelations of this preseason. I don't really know how to put it. Like, I know that Andre Drummond gets memed a lot, but him on a veteran minimum contract for the backup center role is really exactly what he's supposed to be in the NBA. That is his role. He is a backup center. I mean, as we know, the season does ride or die on Joel Embiid. It's that way with any team that has a superstar. It is, if he can stay healthy, they'll win a lot. If he doesn't, they'll lose a lot. Like, if the guy,
I don't know any team that's so top heavy reliant though. Like, can you take off one star from another team and they'll lose more games than Joel Embiid? I don't think any other roster is built similarly, and that's the thing is he's a legit MVP candidate. And behind him, I know we're supposed to say that your second best player is Toby, but I have no fucking faith in Tobias Harris.
Well, he's not the second best player. Ben Simmons is the second best player. It's just if he's on the roster.
He's not actually. Yeah.
Ben, is he on the roster? I don't think Ben gets traded for scraps. I just don't think that's what it comes to at all. I think Morey's pretty much put his foot down on that. That's not going to happen like that. If that was going to happen, I think they've already would have traded him for like a Malcolm Brogdon or something like that. Morey's only going to make a move that's positive, not lateral. What?
Yep. That's some shade right there to Malcolm Brogdon, but okay.
Malcolm Brogdon's a good player, but he does not improve.
Scraps?
He does not improve the Sixers' chance to win a title, so in terms, I call him scrap. Yes.
Okay.
Isaiah Joe, I think, needs to take a big jump this year. I think the Sixers' bench lineup is actually better this year than it was last year. If you bring in Ben, you have the same exact starting lineup from last year. And then, obviously, on the bench, I don't have to deal with Dwight Howard getting technicals and flagrant fouls every game. I can throw Tyreese Maxey, Isaiah Joe, Matisse Thybulle, Niang, or Korkmaz with Drummond, and I think you actually have a very solid bench unit. And the question is going to be, will Doc play Isaiah Joe? Will Doc play the young guys? Probably not, because that's what Doc does. I'll stick by it. Matter of fact, Doc wins regular season games. It's just the point of the matter. He does. His team, when he was with that crappy Clippers team, and they traded his best player, Tobias Harris, that year, and then he still got the 8 seed with him. Like, that was super impressive. That's what he does. When he gets to the postseason, he choked. It's time and time again. That's what he does. He did it last year.
He's outcoached in the postseason. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, I don't even know if he's outcoached because I think that's insulting to coaching because he doesn't coach. He just throws out the same rotations and doesn't change them. It's the same shit. Like, you can literally see that things aren't working, and he's just like, what? He's just sitting there. That's what he does. I think what you said is realistic. I think the 1 seed last year, I think everything has to go right, and Ben Simmons has to be bought in, which I'm questionable on if he will be. And yes, this team could be a 2 seed if they really stayed healthy the entire year, because Embiid missed time last year. And they were still the 1 seed. So yes, Embiid being out is huge. They still win games when Embiid's out. I think that they're not nearly as effective. But Ben showed in multiple games last year, like the 42-point game he had against Utah when Joe was out, like he can be effective. The whole question mark is, I assume he's going to play at this point, because if he wasn't going to play, I think we would have heard, like, he met with Doc twice yesterday. He has a workout. I think he's working out, like, right now, basically, alone because he has to quarantine. It's just, like, there are a lot of question marks, and like you said, the one thing that you can rely on is that Joel Embiid is just a fucking monster. Like, he is, I saw it, he averages the most points per game per 36 in NBA history. Like, that's a wild stat. Like, I know per 36 stats are hit or miss, but even to be, like, in that conversation is wild, and that shows if he can stay on the court how effective he is. The whole question mark with this team, Shake Milton, I don't know what happened that, like, halfway through the year last year, he just done. Like, he just turned into a horrible player. I don't know what happened, genuinely. He had that one game against the Hawks in the playoffs where he played really well. He's very inconsistent. He hasn't been able to find that. Question mark is going to be the bench for this team. The starting lineup is one of the best in the NBA when they're healthy. There's no worry about that. Ben, Seth, Danny, Tobias, and Joel Embiid. There's no worry about that lineup. It's the 5 after and Doc wanting to ride 5 people out off the bench together for 7 minutes at a time. That lineup just didn't work last year. So Tyreese Maxey, I've talked about him ad nauseum. Such a phenomenal player. Now, can he put it together consistently in his second year? It's a lot to ask for a second-year guy to be able to be the bench point guard on a championship team. That'll be a big question. That's why they went and got George Hill last year. It did not work. He was horrible for them, which is very sad, but is what it is. I won't hammer on too long about the Sixers. Is there any other topic that you wanted to hit with them on the entire team?
You think Matisse is going to carry over some of the swag from the Olympics and become a bigger player on this team rather than just a defender, all-world defender? But, like, do you think he'll actually have time being someone who can be counted on to knock down 3-pointers?
Yeah.
Or do you think he's still the fifth option at all times?
Yeah, I think it's very important for Nice. I don't think his shooting is ever going to become like 38% from three, 39% from three. If Matisse could get to a consistent 35% from three. Now, the big thing I think with him is how much of an athletic freak he is. His off-ball movement has to improve. Like, we kind of saw it down the stretch last year. His alley-oop ability to be a back-end, like, baseline catcher is there.
Yeah, he can backdoor cut really well.
He needs to consistently do it. Exactly. He needs to consistently do it. And playing with a guy like Ben, if Ben does play, maybe we see it more often. His shooting in the Olympics looked great. I need to see it over a 40, 50 game stretch for be able to buy into it. That's my question with him. Yeah, and again, like, I think when Danny was questioned if he was going to leave or not, Thibault was the guy who was going to jump in to be the starter. So defensively, this team is going to be top 3 in the league like it was last year. Like, defensively, they're monsters. Offensively, can they become consistent? Can they get consistent rim pressure? Can they knock down their threes? We've seen they've increased their 3-point percentage, like shots by 5% already in the preseason. So I think there's an innate ability. They need to have Seth Curry be consistently aggressive all regular season like we saw in the playoffs. He was phenomenal.
He was their second best player in the playoffs.
Yeah, he was. And he's pretty close to first because he was just...
I'd say he might have been, actually. Now I'm like...
he was... Embiid was first because he was playing on a torn meniscus and just putting up 30 a game. Like, that guy's a freak. There's no question about... I remember sitting, like, it was either a year or two ago, and we were still questioning Embiid and his playoff performances. There is no question anymore. Joel Embiid is just a stud all around. It's the rest of the team.
Doesn't, get hurt.
Yes, that's what I mean. That, like, when he performs,
or shit his pants.
That would be very important for him not to do anymore. Yeah. And I know that people are gonna say that, like, we should talk about Tobias Harris. There's no reason to talk about him. He's not good enough to be a second option on a team, and there's no realistic expectation of him taking that jump. Like, am I wrong, or is there just no?
No, he's somewhere between 14 and 20 points a game. Sometimes it's sufficient. Sometimes it's just
it's not, man.
Sometimes he's just chucking. He will try to get there though. That's I don't know.
He's a very good leader. He's just not on the court. # on the court. I'm very questionable. I do agree with you. I think the reasonable expectation is a 4-5 seed. I can see him falling down to 6 if Embiid gets hurt, but I don't think they end up in the play-in like some people have said.
I guess the question is, do you think Ben will be moved, or do you think there's a chance he will finish out the season on the Sixers?
No, I think Ben moves in December or January. I think some team is struggling, some team starts a bidding war, and it goes up. Like, even we saw last year with Harden, Ben is not close to James Harden, but we saw that Harden didn't even care, and he was barely playing, and their price still went up strictly because they saw that the Houston was going to force him to play. Like, they were not going to bend down, and that started a bidding war. So, I mean, it is what it is. I think there's one of two ways it goes with Ben. One, he just shows nonchalant effort and gets traded in December when December 15th is the big date when people who were signed in free agency become available for trades. That's most likely when a trade comes down. They said, Jake Fisher in his article today said there's 10 teams that have been in constant contact with the Sixers. That's a third of the league, people. A third of the league is interested in a player. There was 9 teams, and then there was, Jake Fisher said there was a 10th mystery team that even Simmons and Rich Paul don't know about. I'll say a little hint. I think it's the Denver Nuggets. I think it is. I can't say that.
That AG contract extension turns into...
No, it wouldn't be Aaron Gordon, but...
You guys aren't getting Murray.
Murray coming off... No, it would be us, Ben, plus stuff to get Jamal Murray, most likely, would be the trade. Again, I don't think it happens. It's just, I think they've talked. Or the Michael Porter Jr. contract extension kicks in, and then he's making that money. So I'm just saying,
0 chance you get an MPJ.
So they would. You think that Daryl Morey is going to be like, yeah, Aaron Gordon increases our championship potential over here? If we're gonna.
I think it's a series of moves where they're going to flip Toby and Ben, and they end up getting back Aaron Gordon and another piece and John Wall.
I like John Wall, but don't give me Aaron Gordon and John Wall. That just makes me throw up. You like
another piece? I'm trying to.
Do you like floor spacing, my guy? I don't think you do. You want to throw John Wall and Aaron Gordon on a team with Joel Embiid?
Oh, you guys are gonna attack the rim so good. I just had to throw in there to piss off any Sixers fans still watching at this point of an hour-long video.
The Bulls and the Sixers would play each other, and there'd be like 5 3-point attempts in the entire game. It would just be rim pressure, rim pressure, rim pressure, rim pressure.
Bro, we got fucking DeMar taking threes now.
And that's gonna do it. And that's gonna do it for our video today, everybody. I hope you did enjoy our Atlantic season preview. Dave and I will be on a marathon of recording these videos, so check out more on the channel below. Again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you want to get notified, as Ricky would say. Hit that bell down below for when we upload. Again, our Patreon and our channel memberships are down below if you'd like to support and get content a week early. And also, our Discord is down below. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Dave, for putting up with my Sixers talk. And I hope everybody has a great day. Nice voice crack.